r/Askreddit by Reddit and chill. Police officers of Reddit. How do you know if someone is acting nervous because they did something wrong or because I did nothing but it's the police so I'm going to act nervous anyway? The recent Malcolm Gladwell book Talking to Strangers provides some statistical backing to the notion that they can't. They just think they are better at it than the average person. The average person think they are better at it than the average person. As a person who was once turned around at the US border being told there is a warrant out for my arrest in Canada, I had to go to the police to figure out what is up and I had never been so nervous in my life. The US border enforcement officer wouldn't tell me what the warrant was for. And I was completely confused by the whole ordeal as I had entered the US previously several times and I had to complete a criminal background check for the job I was working. I know I had done nothing wrong. But not knowing what was going to happen next. Thinking I may be immediately apprehended and locked up at the Canadian border. Then having to go to the RCMP and then not one but two other police stations and tell them that there is a warrant out for my arrest but I had no idea about it was scary. Just for closure on the issue. It appears someone had provided an officer with my name and address after being caught committing a crime and they had no ID on them as the description written down by the officer who caught this fake me did not match my description. Not sure why that person was let go in the first place. Maybe they were let go because you're such a wholesome and wonderful person that the mere mention of your name was a guarantee of integrity. Maybe they didn't know that someone could stoop so low as to lie about being you. Have a great day and happy holidays, internet friend. Almost certainly. They can't. This has been studied. People suck at identifying lies. People think they can. But it's all confirmation bias. They remember all the times they were right and forget the times they were wrong. The only times liars can be reliably identified in general is when they make verifiable errors of fact. I didn't steal that man's wallet when they have the wallet in their pocket. If someone tells you they can always identify a lie, they're wrong. It doesn't mean they'll be wrong every time they try. Just that you shouldn't take their claims as reliable. Edit. 2 things I'll add in response to some of the comments. First, when it comes to catching lies from people you know well as opposed to strangers, I think it may be the case that your odds improve. I am uncertain what the science says on that though. In the case of police with a random person, however, this isn't relevant. Second, for those wanting a source you can just Google it, there's tons. But here is one example for you. It's an article that covers this and also links to an actual study within the article. I went to a seminar given by a retired FBI BOW agent. He said specifically that it is impossible to tell if someone is lying. Only that they are nervous. He would pay attention to what topics made people the most nervous and focus on that area. He also said that people were more likely to confess to something after 4 hours of being in the room. Because they were increasingly more uncomfortable. Not a cop, this just brought back a memory. I was 19 living in my first apartment and my psycho neighbors called the cops saying I was doing drugs. 3 showed up and asked to search the place and I declined after allowing them inside because I know my rights. They said they would just go get a warrant and come back and told them you go ahead and do that then. Then one asked me why I was shaking and so nervous and I finally said I have PTSD and there are 3 people with guns in my living room. They left and never came back with that warrant. Most cops don't know the difference. They're just there to try and bulldoze you into giving up your rights so they can proceed how they want. 2. That sounds bad. Hope your PTSD is better now. I got pulled over at 1 AM while DDing one time, have 2 college age kids in my car, no one is 21 so they're both freaking out and cop comes up to my car and says he smells alcohol. I told him I had 2 girls under 21 in my car who were drunk but I was taking them home right now. Cop then has me get out of the car and it's the middle of January so I'm freezing, so I get out, hands in my sweatshirt pockets, shivering from the cold and freaking out because I've never been pulled over before. Cop freaks out, pulls his gun and yells at me to put my hands up and on the car, which I obviously do immediately because I enjoy being alive. Cop puts his gun away and starts asking me how much I've had to drink and I tell him that I've had nothing, I was just the DD, I didn't even go out with them, just picked them up. But the cop says I'm lying because he can see how nervous I am. Like he didn't just pull his gun on me. He makes me do all the tests. Has me walk the line. say the alphabet backwards, etc. All the while he's asking me semi-racist questions. As I'm walking the line he asks me how often I've done this and what my education level is. I eventually ask for a breathalyzer which he states he'll give me, but if I don't blow a 0 you're going in the back of my car and I'm gonna ruin your life. I obviously blow a 0 and he then starts asking me what drugs I did tonight, saying that he knows I smoked weed tonight. I didn't. Or that I'm high on someone else's prescription. Still no. So eventually at around 3 AM his partner tells him to let me go, so after 2 hours of this guy harassing me for no reason he lets me go and doesn't even give me a ticket because, as his partner put it, we pulled you over because you were driving suspiciously, not because I did anything wrong. Is saying the alphabet backwards actually one of the tests? I can't do that normally. Anyone who runs is a VC. Anyone who doesn't run is a well-disciplined VC. VC? Hey, anyone know why that people who have been abused by police? What's your story? Thread got deleted? I was browsing through r/public freakout top posts earlier, and a lot of them were videos of police interactions. When looking at the comments for one, a mod had mentioned that the comments were locked as police hate could get us sub-quarantined. Maybe something to do with that? Edit. Since people have been rebuking this and calling the mods bootlickers, I looked into it a little. Here is a post from r/badcop no donut where a mod explains that it's actually about advocating violence. As you /nate60 said below. Here is the comment I was referring to. I was mistaken. The comment's not locked yet, but it was mentioned as a possibility by the mod if things got out of hand, i.e. violence threats violating site-wide rules. All of the responses you're going to get are signs of someone just being nervous or not wanting to be interrogated by a cop. This is the problem with police officers assuming they have some magic ability to tell when someone is a criminal just by looking at them. It lets them invent reasons to go further with their search than they legally should based on their experience. It also gives them an excuse to follow their prejudices, known and unknown. For instance, police regularly indicate that furtive gestures led them to believe something was afoot. Those same officers are regularly unable to define the word furtive. This is why Oregon just banned police from asking probing or asking off-topic questions at traffic stops. All communication now has to be about the traffic stop. No more questions about the last time you used meth or last time you killed a person. There's a difference between evasive and nervous. Nervous will natter on a bit, but eyes knows they got to avoid mentioning doing something. If they keep looking below their car seat, can't articulate where they're going, etc. Nervous people calm as the interaction goes on. People with something to hide often get worse. The most annoying interaction I've had with a cop. I got pulled over for speeding, and when I was asked for EID, I reached in the map pocket where I kept my wallet, but I couldn't find it. I looked at my center console. Couldn't find it. After looking back and forth a few times for probably less than 5 seconds, I found in the map pocket, where I originally thought it was. He told me this made me look really nervous and suspicious, and he asked me to step out of my vehicle, since I knew I was speeding. I obliged. I tried to explain I wasn't nervous about the cop. I thought I lost my wallet an hour back in town when I stopped for gas. He said that I shouldn't be nervous about not having my ID. He could have looked it up. I just stared at the guy. I was nervous because I was an hour from town. I thought I lost my wallet and had no money. And still had another 2 hours till I was home. After he looked in my truck, all I had was a backpack with a notebook and some pens. He said I seemed calmer and he was going to let me go. I just thought, no shit, I'm calmer. I calmed down the moment I found my wallet. All in all, nothing bad came about it, but it was incredibly annoying. The most correct answer is you can't. And any cop telling you they can is either lying to you or themselves. There is no such thing as a tell. Broadly. Some people have them. Some people are just nervous. All that shit about reading body language to spot a liar is completely unsupported by science. Cop science is bad science. I was flying home from Mexico last summer and had a direct flight into my home airport, Cincinnati, which is rare. I didn't even know they had customs there. I had a little bag of loose pills in my suitcase that were all totally innocent. like ibuprofen and Zytec. I had bought Costco-sized bottles and didn't want to bring the whole bottle. So I made the huge mistake of packing them loose. I'll totally admit that was my mistake. When customs were searching my bag, they found a Ziploc bag. When I explained to the agent that it was ibuprofen and Zytec, they didn't believe me. Which again makes sense. I was coming back from Mexico. It could have been solved with a quick Google of the numbers on the pills. Instead, she takes my passport from me and tells me to sit down. I sit down for about 20 minutes. My family all go through, and the agent won't let them stop or talk to me. I ask what's going on and she refused to tell me anything or give me back my passport. After an hour and a half, every single person on my plane had gone through. Now every agent is walking over to me. 8-10 agents surround me. Literally. In a circle around me. They're all asking me questions at once. At this point I'm visibly nervous and shaking. I already don't do well with confrontation. And now I'm scared. One agent starts yelling at me asking what medication I'm on for anxiety. I told him I don't take anything for anxiety. And he yells at me again and calls me a liar and that I must have anxiety since I'm shaking so bad. This went on for about 15-20 minutes. I was crying at this point. Finally, one agent googled the pills and saw they were ibuprofen and Zytec. Like I said, they begrudgingly gave me back my passport and let me go. My family had been waiting on the other side for almost 2 hours at this point. My heart is racing just typing this out, lol. I understand that they needed to double check and I shouldn't have had those pills loose. But damn. That was excessive. And people wonder why cops have publicity issues. Never talk to them. That's what lawyers are for. One thing I'm leaving from this thread is I'm gonna get shot either way. It's definitely looking that way. According to these people I'm a nervous criminal with something to hide. They don't know. Let's not perpetuate the idea that they are highly trained mind readers. I think if you read the news you will see that it is pretty well established that the police cannot tell the difference. They can't tell. A friend of mine has always been accused simply because of the way he looks despite being a great person. Everything the cops do is panic inducing. Flashing bright lights. Loud sirens. Flashlight in your face. Hands on their hips near their weapons. Just everything. I don't do drugs or drink but I've been pulled over for a taillight being out before and just had a massive panic attack. Nothing about what you do says hey I'm here to protect you and the public genuinely fears you. Asking me why is your heart racing and why are your palms sweaty is ducking idiotic. You don't. You just shoot and say something like tag M and bag M. Everyone laughs and that's lunch. Let's sprinkle some crack on him and get out of here. Obligated, not a police officer. However, there is a vast majority of officers who seem to have anger management issues, ungodly need for absolute compliance. I grew up in both good areas and bad. I actually got more shit in the good areas. I remember I was turning at a stopped sign. After being stopped for about 5 minutes waiting for a light to change so I could turn left. I turned left after waiting a bit for no more cars after the change of a light near the stop sign and turned left. Police officer was behind me shortly after the turn, running a red light. Had plenty of distance but when I was driving almost hit me because he wasn't paying attention and almost rear-ended me. Pulled me over, came up and shouted what the duck was that? Demanded my license while degrading my driving skills and seeing ability. All while screaming and gave me a ticket for reckless driving. Told me to get off of the ducking road and drove away. I was 17. 5'4" and very respectful the entire exchange, never once raising my voice. Or saying anything other than yes officer. That officer made me second guess every other police encounter I have seen. Because his reaction was so over the top and ridiculously aggressive for no reason. I contested the charge and the ticket got dropped, but I will never forget that interaction and never feel safe around officers. Perhaps we should screen people more frequently for power complexes serving in positions of power. It's crazy that there isn't some sort of secret over the top integrity stress test to see if a person is a good officer. I feel like if there was one we'd have better officers. Or just use ex-military cause they've learned how to keep their cool. During high school my friends and I got pulled over for unknown reasons. Two huge SWAT types got out of their car and started screaming at us to put our hands out the window. With their hands on their guns as they approached the car. They come up and ask if we have any weapons. For the record, we were a ragtag group of goofy looking kids who were just trying to get back to play some video games. During all this, one cop asks my buddy why he's so nervous because he can see his heart beating through his shirt. My buddy says something to the effect of, "You guys have guns on us." So yeah, cops are awful at being able to tell why someone is nervous. They seem to think nervous equals suspicious. They let us go without incident. We were just glad to be out of that situation. Ducking, like and subscribe.